Hey YouTube, welcome to the channel. This is our first show of our second season. We got a late start last year and now we are on it. This year is going to be an amazing year. There's a place where you imagine your writing and there's the reality of your writing today. We're closing that gap this year. First show is going to be all about something that matters more than anything else, your body's relationship to the bike. That is the foundation that all your writing is built on. My experience with body position starts way back in motocross as a 16-year-old, and I buy Gary Bailey's book on how to win at motocross. I think that's where I first heard about the attack position. I feel a little bit lucky that I started in moto because the motorcycle is so heavy, the bike is gonna move and you're gonna have to adjust. Sometimes I see people on bikes taking that position so literally that they try to stay stuck in it. They're just gonna force it, and it doesn't work. This notion of the attack position, it's a sacred cow. But you know what? We're gonna debunk it. I'm here with Lee McCormack from Lee Likes Bikes Again, and Lee has a very different way of looking at your relationship between the body and the bike.
An old friend of mine named Brian Lopes, greatest mountain biker in history maybe, contacted me out of nowhere. And so we started this book project, you know. That season I won 2 or 3 nationals, huge goal, and my massive life goal was to go to Worlds. And not only to show up, but to be invited and wear the jersey. And I got to go, and I rode pretty well. And it was funny because that's as far as I had dreamt. I never wanted to be a pro mountain bike racer. So as soon as I got there, my focus shifted to teaching. And I'm teaching the attack position. Bend your knees, elbows out, shoulders down, eyes up, all that stuff. The whole idea was like, if you're here, you're safe and you're good. And it was good.
Really good.
It was good. Like, I was helping people, they were having more fun.
But you were also crashing a fair amount. I mean, there's some spectacular crashes.
I was succeeding, but also I was suffering. Like, my quads were burning, I was getting arm pumped, at least 6 massive concussions. This collarbone, I was committed, and I was spending my body and my heart and my mind on this project. I used to crash a lot. Like, I would even crash in race runs and really afraid of crashing, and my jumping was a mess. It was so inconsistent that inconsistency gives you fear.
It's hard to imagine you not being good at jumping. That inconsistency takes away the joy, makes it hard to progress. Breaks your collarbone.
Breaks your collarbone. I was basically tearing my body to pieces, but like, I was still married to this attack position. But the tension and struggle that I was feeling on the bike, I could see it in my people. And so I started to really like second guess the sacred cow. Like what's going on here? I was out with a young guy I've been working with. He was a racer. I could see the tension on him. And I'm just like, no man, do your position, do your position. And it just hit me. I was like, oh my God. Attack position? What the hell? Attack. You cannot attack a mountain and prevail. It doesn't work. It's not possible. And then I'm watching this trail where there's rocks and crazy, the bike's going nuts. I'm like, position? Like, that's wrong too. It's funny, like, it's so wrong. I used to be the head coach for NINO, which is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So I trained something like 1,000 coaches to train kids. I was in Tucson, Arizona, and I got there and I got the flu so bad. And I had to cancel it because I was so sick. So I spent the entire day in and out of like sleep and delirium. And I've been like feeling this change in how riding works. I could feel it, but I didn't have words for it and I couldn't see it yet. And dude, it did hit me. I saw myself in this room with 2 tables pulled end to end, with a bike with a pedal on each table and the bike pivoting. I had a vision of that. And so the next day I was like, guys, like, bear with me. And we tried this thing and I got up on there and I could feel the bike moving. I could feel like how my hips were moving and and I was like, holy crap. Once I got in tune with this hinge and then like the things that come from it, like the rowing and anti-rowing, my whole approach started shifting from like this kind of like pugilistic, I'm gonna dominate the trail.
Rock'em sock'em
MTV. Rock'em sock'em MTV. You pound, and your head goes up.
You get the
Yeah, I literally have had the head. Yeah, so that wasn't working, right? And I started like getting into a much softer, more like Aikido-y feel where it's like not me against the mountain. I realized that like, say 99% of all the things we do on the bike come down to this really simple movement pattern that happens to be the same movement pattern that you use for cross-country skiing, being a linebacker, rock climbing, rowing, on and on and on. It's a universal human pattern, right?
How much do you wish you knew how to hinge in the early part of your career?
The photo of me here at Worlds.
Yeah.
I can look at my face. I do not have a soft focus of a Zen master. And I'm doing this number.
Oh, yeah?
That's what everybody does.
Yeah.
If I would... I can look back at these photos, right? And kind of see like, there's an accidental hinge. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But there it is. Riding pretty good, but that's not the that we teach anymore.
Right.
I was surviving and I was like experiencing like the occasional magical accidental hinge. Like there's a shot here, Lee Otter DS. Like it was a great day for me. I qualified second in semi-pro and I'm in a hinge. So like it was coming. A huge thing we want for all you guys is to have confidence. What we want you guys to do is when you're under duress or anything looks interesting, we want your body just to click to a hinge without thought. When your body is in the right place, details are handled. Like I don't teach 56 things anymore. I teach like one thing now.
Yeah.
And if I need to like talk to you about your earlobe or your pancreas, I'll mention it. But like for 99% of everybody I work with, and that's thousands of people now, once you get the hinge good, everything else is good. I massively recommend that you get great at hinging off the bike so that when you're on the bike, you have a chance of being able to hinge. So first the contrast, like most of us, we squat. That's a squat. And that has its place, but not for riding. And one thing that happens is the force, the net force of gravity is going right around here. And the farther a joint is from that line, the greater the stress on that joint. So squats are bad because of A, tons of stress on your quads. If your quads hurt on downhills, this is why. B, shoulders are really far from the handlebars, so you have no control. And C, it puts leverage against your low back. So we do not squat. What we do instead is we hinge. And the simplest way to practice a hinge is in like a motocross stance. Brace your core. Check this out. The knee will go right over the middle of your foot. So there's a little isosceles triangle of awesomeness. Watch my knee, okay? And check it out. The net force is going somewhere around through here now. My knee is very close to that line, so there's very little stress on my knee. But my hips are really far from that line. So that puts the stress here. And that's where we want it, okay? So in a hinge, your knees do not translate forward. In this kind of a hinge, they're right over the middle of the foot. This is a low hinge, and we can support our weight through our hips, and we have lots of range of motion. A high hinge is like a Romanian deadlift or a straight-legged deadlift. And a high hinge, your knees go right over your heels, and then your hips go back. And then this is a lot more stretching on the hamstring. So we have a low hinge with our knees over the middle of our base. We have a high hinge with our knees over our heels. In moments when we need maximum arm range or we're gonna go down something crazy, we go to a low hinge. In moments that are a little bit more mellow, like a cross-country racer, when you're cruising along, you can hang out on a high hinge. When you're riding crazy rad trails, you're gonna oscillate between a low hinge and a high hinge. The farther forward your knees are, the more quads you use. Bad, that's a squat. Tons of quad. In a minute, I'll be hurting. This is a normal low hinge. The quads are on, but not like in a crazy way. And check this out. Like, see if you can see this. When you go to a high hinge, watch the quads. They completely turn off. So that's how, like a cross-country racer can recover between sections, or a downhiller, or an enduro guy, or anybody. I want you guys to get really good at, again, square stance, low hinge, high hinge. Increase the delta, and they get really good at moving fluidly between them. So that's hard enough, right? And level 2 is to do all this in a bike stance. And so this is harder because the leg is straighter, so there's more hamstring. We start with a low hinge because that's easier. So you can do your low hinge. This feels pretty good. Then you can do your high hinge. And I've been warming up all day, so I have it. which explains partially the SCHURTE'R syndrome, which is the fact that like someone like NINO SCHURTE'R can shred gnarly DH with a high seat. The story goes, all the like local pro SoCal downhill pros like Richie Schley and Brian Loeb were gonna do a big ride in Laguna Canyon, and SCHURTE'R showed up on his cross country bike, and they're all, NINO, dude, you gotta drop your seat for this, man. This is gnarly. And he's like, forget you guys, I can do everything you can with my seat up. And he did. Loeb's told me that himself. Like he freaking hung with pro downhillers with the seat up on it, and it's hinging, man. Alex's bike is at a really crazy down angle, and a lot of us have been led to believe that like, oh, if a bike is at this kind of angle, there must be a weight on your bars. But clearly there isn't. His weight's in his feet, and that's because of his hinge. When you have this position on lockdown, you just know that you can make any reasonable angle on any trail, and you can ride pretty much anything safely. Like, that's a big change.
If you like this video, hit the like button. It really helps out. And if you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell so the algorithm knows you actually want to see what we come out with when we come out with it. Hitting that bell is the only way, and it really makes a difference, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Enjoy a Bike.